All right. Well, let's get going. I want to thank everybody for taking the time. We are going to be very prompt. We try to wrap these up no later than 10 of because we know people are very busy. This panel is been assembled to deal with the AMI process. So I'm going to do uh, a quick intro on their systems and where they are. But Steve is been on a system for 10 years. Susan has just completed almost. Ron completing almost. Eric is 25% in, and Jason is 85% in. And with that, I'm going to start in my Brady Bunch. If Eric, you could start with a quick intro on where you are and background.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it, Drew. So my name is Eric Barber. I'm the Assistant Commissioner of Public Services for the City of Beverly. We're about 25 miles north of Boston. Population of about 44,000 residents. We have 11,501 accounts, water accounts, sewer accounts. Some of them have trash. So we are on the distribution and collection side of our business. With that said, we're about 25% of the way into our meter changeout program. We had an antiquated system that was really coming to end of life roughly from the year 2000. The main factor being we had endpoints that have batteries that are no longer communicating with our meter reading van. So we went from a meter reading van with a single individual who drove routes around our city to collect those readings. And because the batteries in the endpoints were dying, we were not receiving transmissions. Therefore, a lot of our city has gone to a either estimated or manual read process, and it's been very problematic. So we made the justification to move towards an AMI system. It's been about a 2.5 year process from beginning to now, which included all of our preliminary work, what I'll call the design phase, but it was really scoping and developing our scope of service and the bid documents that we needed to support this project. And then ultimately through the, what I guess would be the implementation phase. So right now we're in the implementation phase, and we have about 25% of our meters installed at this point, primarily on the residential side. We're just about to start the very beginning of our commercial program.
Excellent. Thank you. Jason?
Good morning, Jason Baker. I'm the Deputy Commissioner for the City of Yonkers Department of Public Works. We are a city of about 211,000 people. We are not a borough of New York. We are a separate city, but we're located, we border the Bronx. We've got about 30,000 water accounts in our city. And our department handles more than just water, actually. We do facility maintenance, we do vehicle maintenance, we do sanitation, recycling, we do sewer, and of course we have our water bureau, as well as snow removal and street maintenance. So we take on a lot of different aspects of public works, but the water bureau is probably our largest operating budget, our largest capital budget, and it's probably the most critical service that we provide, given the importance of having clean, good quality water. We implemented our first AMI back in 2013, and it was a system that was put in prior to my joining DPW. But when I came on board in 2021, the system at that point had been in for about 7 or 8 years, and only about half of the meters were communicating. So it was an issue that was getting better. We had to strategize and come up with ways to ensure that we can continue to monitor water consumption and accurately bill to the best of our ability, while simultaneously looking forward toward a new solution. And that's where we are now. We've gone through a procurement process. We're well underway with the implementation. We are about 85% complete with the installations. Our project also included a new CIS, and so it's been a largely smooth process in the implementation thus far, and we're already starting to see the benefits of it. Um, yeah, that's pretty much an intro.
Sounds good. Steve, you're next. My Brady Bunch windows here.
Hey. Yeah, I'm Steve Riddle. I'm with the Southern Cuga Lake Intermunicipal Water Commission. We supply water to 6 municipalities, and then we operate their distribution system. So 6 communities came together. We run it as one large system now. Um, we have around 7,500 water connections and meters in the system. We actually went from a postcard system. We would send out a postcard, customers would read their meter and send it back, to a full-blown AMI system over the period of 1 year. So it was a really crazy year back in 2016. But since then, we've accomplished all of our goals with the system, improving customer service, getting actual reads. 20 to 30% of our customers didn't send those postcards back. And then actually having data to know what's going on in our system. So basically, it was we had the SCADA system for our treatment plant. We needed a system to basically run our distribution system, and that's what we use the AMI system for.
Postcards, we saw one recently, still in use. So there's definitely a big gap from that to AMI. And Susan, please.
My name is Susan McLean. I work for the City of Danbury Public Utilities Department. I'm the administrative coordinator. We switched over from a walk-up read to a drive-by AMR system in 2005, 2006. And by 2019, we saw about a 50% failure rate in the drive-by endpoints. So I started researching different meter reading software, different meter reading processes, and came upon AMI. Continue to do research through COVID. We were ready to go out for an RFP in 2020, but then, the world shut down. So continue to do research. We hired Rayburn to help us with the RFP process and made our selection in early 2024. We began our project in May of 2024. We are about 5% from being complete and working out with those last 800 or so customers. My system has about 12,500 meters in it, just shy of 12,000 actual customers. So we have fire line as well as water and irrigation. And in the middle of the AMI upgrade conversion process, we had a utility billing software that we walked in the morning every day and said, please work. And it was becoming more of a manual transfer, manual check to make sure everything came in. So we ended up in the middle of the AMI project, also going with the CIS conversion process. And
Yes,
everything with that went amazing.
Oh, that was fun. Yeah, that was definitely in the middle of everything that helped make a little bit spicy. Ron?
Yeah, my name is Ron Baker. I'm with the City of Medford, Massachusetts Water Department. I am the network administrator of the water system for the meters and billing system. We have just over 15,000 endpoints. We did come from an AMI system to another AMI system. We knew what we wanted. We had one installed in 2005. 15 years later, reading devices similar to Eric's case started dying at a rapid rate. I gave the city a forecast that this was going to become a real problem. We started putting together an RFP. We were thinking about retrofitting the existing system. We decided to go another way, just due to technology and what was up and coming. My old meter system, I had every single meter manufacturer implemented into my system with the reading device in AMI mode. When we chose a new system, we were looking for a system that could do something else other than just read meters. What else could you do for us? We come from a old infrastructure, just outside of Boston. We are replacing 80 miles of our water main. So we wanted something with leak detection in it. So that was our focus point. We put an RFP out with a meter system that actually could help us with our unaccounted for water. And that helped us come to our decision on what we moved forward with.
Excellent. Well, my first question normally is, why did you decide to go AMI? I think this answered that. Um, and I mean, I know the postage bills for those postcards must have been high, Steve, so that was probably an incentive. But the I'm going to put in the chat just so everybody has it. You're going to see my email, and if anybody that was just explained a scenario that's parallel to what you're dealing with, any one of the panelists has agreed that please reach out to me directly and I will set up the intro. There's going to be questions, answers, similar systems. Again, we've asked for, names of the systems that were good or bad to not be discussed here, but that can be discussed all you want when you guys connect directly. So Ron, you kind of hinted a little bit of what was a main part of your decision process. Eric, I want to start with you. As you were looking at the different suppliers, what swayed your opinion one way or the other?
Yeah, I think the way I'm going to start this is when you're getting started in this process, it's like an investigation, and you start to learn that there are many different ways that these systems can come together to support your community's needs. So the big thing is to really understand what your goals and objectives are and make sure that the package that you put together is capable of supporting it. And that's everything from the meter itself to ultimately your billing software. And then at the end of the day, some of the ancillary things that really support this system. We were very unique in the fact that we've built our own fiber optic backbone in the city. We own our own fiber network. And so we had the ability to literally stand up radio towers throughout the community on our own fiber optic network that ultimately feeds back to our IT infrastructure. So we knew that there would be some opportunities there. Now, with some fantastic guidance and some great support from our engineering experts, we were at that point really pointed in the direction of what's called a LoRaWAN system, and then the ability to incorporate some of the other bells and whistles that come with an AMI system. So we've built a system that's scalable and not only capable of sustaining the reads from our radio equipment and the meters themselves, but future devices that we may be able to add into this to be more smart city ready. We haven't really at this point played with that too much, but it is in the the network and pipeline to ultimately build out some of those devices and get them deployed throughout the city. So first and foremost, the meters are a cash register. We need to make sure that they're properly accounting for our water and getting us the revenue that we deserve. And then second of all is what more can we do with the system to help support the community as a whole? So it was kind of like a multi-visioned approach to what we're trying to do.
So the one thing I'll add, because I was involved in your project, was the LoRaWAN was after the fact, right? It was the selection had been made and it was fixed network, and then the LoRaWAN, we required network as a service for a fixed network so that it doesn't become the utilities. And then you were looking at the smart city approach. So that was after the fact. And you guys chose it for, the reasons accordingly, right? And in your case, because I want to get, for the questions, you selected equipment separately. Certain states have a co-op process. And so you went with the co-op option for the material.
Yes.
And then your installation process, what was involved in the selection of that?
So just to reiterate, the purchase of the equipment, it was a national consortium that our purchasing department determined met the standards for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts procurement law. So we were able to leverage that for the purchase of the meters themselves. Then when it went to installation, we originally put out an RFP, but my purchasing department pulled that back, and we went out to, I believe, what's considered an IFB, or an invitation for bid. I'm not a purchasing guy, and I can't tell you the exact nuances between those. But from a strategic perspective, the methodology for which you procure services might have pros and cons and lead to different exposure. and we wanted to minimize our exposure. And so our purchasing department ultimately pulled back our original RFP and went to an IFB, but I'm a little bit naive to what the differences there are.
Yes, Massachusetts regulatory law and the exposure we have to it is definitely a separate conversation. Jason, again, we know why you went to AMI, because you were going from a broken AMI to an AMI, and your selection process, it was under a lot of scrutiny. A lot of people were involved. Average meeting, generally 15 or more people. What helped you make your decision?
Yeah, I mean, as you said, it was under scrutiny for a good reason. That we had, half of our meters at that point weren't operating or weren't communicating with the antennas. We had antenna issues in themselves where we had to allocate resources, I would say on a weekly basis, to go out and try and repair the data collectors, which were located in very dangerous areas. I mean, some of them were in the attics of schools where, you kind of had to scale a ladder and then climb on a balancing beam about 50 feet up to reach the computer system. We had some on top of water towers. So, a lot of resources were being allocated. Customers were being directly impacted, and they were also impacted because one of the strategies that we had to utilize, given that the vendor had limited involvement with the repair, was to change out the batteries in the radios. And that was a solution that was recommended. We were provided the batteries, but we still had to go out and do the work. So we're hitting thousands of customers trying to replace their batteries to keep the system as operational as we could, while also implementing an estimated read, which is not ideal. So when we decided to move forward with a new AMI system, which we still felt confident was the right solution for us, our priority was, I would say, reliability and efficiency. We needed a system that could continue to remotely take reads, that could provide accurate data, but also not only data that could be used for billing, but data that we could use to better manage the system, to more efficiently allocate resources. And we needed to be sure that it wasn't our crews that were going out and making repairs to the network when needed. We focused heavily on ensuring that the responsibility of the network would be on the provider rather than on the city, and that the equipment that we received, the meters, the endpoints, had an extensive warranty on them, and we were able to achieve that through an RFP process. And I would say that process was very comprehensive. We wanted a turnkey system, and we were able to. And there was a question about, do we just do the meters and the endpoints and the network, or do we also include a new billing system, new customer portal, which we ultimately decided was the right solution, which completely rip the old system out and put a completely new system in, and it's been successful so far. But yeah, I mean, I think the beauty of an AMI system, and the reason why we continue to stick with it, and we think it is the way forward, is that you're able to get all this data that you otherwise would have to send someone to go out manually and collect, and be able to monitor the health of your water system every single day, without having to, like I said, send people into the field. So it's a system that we're finding that it's going to be reliable, and it's going to continue to allow us to ensure that we're accurately billing, while also ensuring that the customers that are receiving the water are able to monitor their usage and get the most out of the system as well.
The portal is important, especially in working with you guys, there. Steve, could you go over some of the decisions? I mean, again, Steve's system's been AMI operating for 10 years. So, the questions of back then, you got to maybe some memory of, I know you were going from the card, but what made you select the system you went with?
Yeah, so back in 2015, when we started looking at different systems, we were looking at 5 different manufacturers. We also looked at our distributors, our experience with those folks, and then how we were going to package this all together. So we decided to go with an RFP versus an RFQ. We knew this was not a low bid situation. We wanted to make sure we got the system that was right for our communities. So when we started comparing all 5, we quickly saw the differences. Cellular was just starting, so we only had one manufacturer that was cellular option. And then when we started looking at the number of base stations other systems would need, we were in the range from 3 to 17 to cover our area. Because we're here in Ithaca, New York, and the Finger Lakes, there's a lot of hills and valleys. So different systems, we had a lot of different challenges to overcome. Looking at that, we looked at the 5, 10, 15-year costs for the number of base stations, all of the equipment that would need to be updated. And once we started to put that into a spreadsheet, we could really see which manufacturers met our needs and which ones were going to fall short. So that really helped us in our decision making, and especially that long term cost, knowing that we're entering into a 20-year agreement with whichever manufacturer we chose. We really didn't want to make a change, like some of you have already had to. That was really important to us. So to be halfway and still in good shape, we're really happy with where we're at. Um, Outside of the billing concerns that we were trying to address, our system, we have 25 water storage tanks. 14 of those tanks are going to send water out into other tanks as you get farther away from our treatment plant. So trying to track where that water was going, that was kind of our high priority. Billing was kind of second for us, because we wanted to know what was going on, where our non-revenue water was. Guessing, with the postcards and not getting those reads back in, we were probably somewhere around 30% non-revenue water. Since 2017, we have been below 10% non-revenue water. So for a
That's great.
system that's putting water out into the system and we're only getting that revenue back, or the payment for what goes through a customer meter, that's been really important to us. And I think that's kind of where the payback has been for us. We've improved customer service, improved billing by not having issues with our customers, and being more accurate. But that non-revenue side, that's been the game changer for us.
So I'm going to ask this one kind of specifically to you because you're the one who's gone through the honeymoon phase, past the 7-year itch and beyond. You did the reviews, your spreadsheets. Are you the supplier and distributor? Has it been as good as you thought? Better? Somewhat worse? Changes? I mean, there's different personnel changes. How has that worked out for you?
Yeah, it's kind of worked out pretty funny. So when our project started, I was distribution manager, so this project fell under my division. We wrote the RFP in-house. It was my first attempt at that. We worked with getting that out the door, working with the suppliers. We wrote it to where our supplier or distributor oversaw the entire project, so they became the key person for us to work with. But from there, they were responsible to work with the manufacturer and the installer. So all of our issues, we were able to just work with that distributor, and they had to make sure they were supplying the meters to the installers. And if there were any issues, they were handling that with the manufacturer. So it really took a lot of pressure off of us, and our staff, of having to kind of fight back and forth of, the installer saying, "Hey, we're running short on meters," and now we're scrambling to try to work with the manufacturer. This kind of kept it to where we could just say, "Hey, you guys got the contract. You need to make sure this all works." So that worked really well. As we've gotten 10 years into the project, the same people from the manufacturer and the distributor are still our reps. So we've kind of grown up together in the system and learned a lot from each other. So it's been a really good partnership for us. So really glad to be able to say that.
So I hope everybody else gets to say that, right? Because um, you guys, for just so everybody understands, I've worked with Eric and Jason and Susan, and I've met Steve and Ron for the first time in selecting this process. So what I hope for is, and all of the people that are I'm familiar with on this call on the Rayburn side, all of them selected different systems for different reasons. So we've seen the spectrum of that, including LoRaWAN, fixed, and cellular, right? So we've got that. So each one of them, as they're beginning their journey, I hope they're able in 10 years to say that they're as happy as Steve is. So that's what we want. And Susan, on to you. Tell us about how your selection process and how that went.
So our selection process, we entertain both fixed as well as cellular, and all of the locations for the fixed network that were identified as good locations were most of our water towers or pump stations that are up on top of hills in Danbury. Danbury is very hilly. We are on the border of New York. Um, and so it's not flat at all. And every location that was identified by the fixed network systems are the locations that get struck by lightning every time it rains. So one of the questions that we ask is, when a fixed network transmitter or receiver gets struck by lightning and damaged, whose expense is it to repair or replace it? And all of the answers were, it's on us. So then we started heavily looking at cellular, and the concern was going from 4G to 5G because we'd heard the horror stories of the 3G cellular. And so we actually met with Verizon and AT&T and discussed the future of cellular networks, 4G, 5G, and beyond, and the carry through or the follow through of cellular networks. Instead of, okay, we're 3G, now we've developed 4, so we're just going to shut off 3. So we made sure that cellular was definitively the direction that we wanted to go in. When we did our RFP, we did it specifically for a cellular network. We met with, I believe, 6 or 7 different vendors and suppliers. And it came down to, we had 2 software products that were virtually identical in function. And it came down to a little bit of price, but more on the customer service and customer support ends. So customer service for the installation process, for the support during the installation and the conversion from our AMI into the AMR into the AMI system, as well as continued support going forward once the conversion project is complete. We also looked at how can the system that we choose move into a smart water system instead of just being used for meter reading. So we looked at how can we meter our distribution as well as the usage side, our production as well as the usage side. So we have new source meters on all of our pump stations as well as the water treatment plants. We also installed reservoir level sensors and pump station sensors that measure volume, PSI, as well as the like pressure loss and things like that. And all of that came together, and we're moving in the direction of a smart water, not just an AMI system.
Fantastic. One of the questions, Amanda, I'm reading your question here, was specifically on non-revenue water, pump stations, tanks. We're working with the water loss, getting into the details of the district metering, measuring the pressure in those areas, and getting pretty smart about that. So you proactively, during the AMI implementation, went to those points and started measuring that for dialing in further for that district metering.
Yes, I actually had to give a presentation to our division chiefs and our superintendents to show them everything that the AMI system can do. And once they saw everything, all of the data and information that we could get on the metering side, I had our vendor come and talk about some of the sensors and things like that, and how we can actually expand it to get more data so that we can lessen our lost water. We are only at about 3% lost unaccounted for water at the moment, and our goal is to get it even lower than that.
Are you going to start producing? I mean, you're getting 3, 1. I mean, you're going to start rain clouds next. I mean, come on. the Ron, over to you. You have selection process. You came from a broken AMI system. You had a lot more probably experience and knowledge than the average person because you were dealing with an AMI system that wasn't meeting your needs. So, talk about your selection process.
Well, we didn't rule anybody out. We gave everybody an opportunity to put their best foot forward and tell us what their system could do for us, whether it's the meter or the system. But like I stated earlier, we wanted to incorporate something with leak detection, not just for detecting leaks for the customers, but our water mains and our services. 120 miles of water main in Medford, 80 of it still needs to be replaced. So finding a meter system that can help us pinpoint where our trouble areas are, whether it's our services, which we're replacing 4 customers now with grants that we're getting. So we're actually replacing private lines. We're also looking for water mains to replace, and having the data of many breaks on one street or one area gives us the feedback that we need. So that was a big thing for us. We made it a big part of our RFP that we needed your meter system to do something other than just meter water. Basically, all meter systems can measure water, right? Pretty accurately too, within a couple percentages. But when we talked to vendors, I looked for a failure rate. Having a AMI system with wires and different meters and communications, and is it the meter? Is it the reading device? Is it the wiring? I wanted to limit maintenance. I'm a one-man operation right now, so I do the installations aside from my meter install that was for the project, but I'm doing all the maintenance too. So 15,000 meters. I want to know what the problem is, if there is a problem, and limit the problems. Contractors go in and cut wires. They take down reading devices. I was looking for a fully integrated meter. One problem, one source of problem. The meter, the antenna, the reader are all in one, fully enclosed in one unit. I think that if a contractor came into a home, they're not going to rip the water meter out. So our meter has a little stubby antenna on it. They usually don't mess with it. Sometimes they break the antenna, I replace the antenna. Very easy fix. But that's what we look for, failure rate. The company that I chose actually had a white page stating what their failure rate was with meters. They've been in business for over 30 years. They collected all their data of percentages of failure rate, and they publicized it. I thought it was one of my sticking points, and I just hate dealing with problems all the time. So, and then that brings the company, whether they're reliable. I don't need to rely on my company. I don't have many customer service issues. I'm not sending back meters. I'm not sending back, bunk product, boxes of meters that won't turn on. That's what I didn't want to deal with. I didn't want to put meters in people's homes and then have to go back there 2 weeks, 2 months later for the same and replace the meter again, or the reading device, or a mouse chewed the wire, or anything like that. I didn't want to deal with that. So I just wanted a system, because I already knew AMI from my previous installation. I had a good idea of what I didn't want to deal with, and that led to my decision of what I wanted to in my system. Having the 17, 18 years of experience with another AMI system definitely showed me my roadmap of what I really wanted. So I had 18 years of practice before I could, put my stamp on my meter system of what I wanted.
Excellent. Now, the cool thing is, and we call this out, if you're dealing with a reliable metering system and a reliable distributor. Our protocol is we only project manage systems that are done with a distributor. We want the local people that you're going to have a relationship be there. That being said, everybody on this call with 5 different utilities, different levels of experience, different problems, all had different solutions that were good for them. And one thing we always say, there is no silver bullet. It depends on your topography, depends on what you're connecting to. The one thing that I would, strongly recommend, and for the people we've worked with, this, you say you're buying a truck, right? Oh, I'm going to buy a truck. I'm going to run out and get a Ford F-150. But you forgot to tell me that you're buying a 22-foot boat. So before we buy that truck, we really want to make sure it's got the appropriate towing package so that when you buy that trailer and boat, it all works together. So your billing system, your asset management system, SCADA's pretty separate accordingly, but just look at the holistic system, recognize that there's no one silver bullet. Susan, go ahead.
So one of the things that I did as we were preparing to go out for an RFP for the project is I put together kind of a wish list. It was very, very comprehensive. It was my absolute must-haves. It was the need, but not an absolute. My would like to have, but not required, and then my wish list. And I believe it was completely comprehensive. Everything, every possible scenario, everything that we could possibly look at, I included on that list. And it was kind of a checklist. And one of the things when we sat down for the RFP was looking at that and incorporating those absolutes and those needs into that RFP. So as you're approaching projects, if you're in the beginning of this, look at your current system, look at what you absolutely need to have, look at where you want to go in the future, because when it comes down to this is a 20-year project, if not longer, as of having a system installed, doing your conversion, and then working with the system for the next 20 years, 20 plus years. So you want to make sure that you're going to get the system that you need and get the system that you want. And that checklist was an amazing thing to just be able to sit down and write the RFP and get the system that we needed for my city.
Having worked with you, Susan, your checklist was extremely comprehensive, to say the least. So yes, that forethought and all of the want to have is key. Question to everybody. Susan already said it. The DMAs, the district metering. Is anybody addressing that? Steve, I see you shaking your head. Is that a yes?
Yeah, so within our system, being 6 municipalities coming together, we've got 25 water storage tanks. So right now we've got all of our customers broken down into a tank grid. Along with that, we've got 27 pressure reducing stations. So we're starting to put in meters, either insertion meters or plumbing them directly into those pressure reducing stations to now create additional district metering zones. The goal is to even get that non-revenue water down even, closer to Susan's 3 level. We're not happy at 8, so we got to get down to 3 now. But yeah, that's one of the things that we've started doing. We've also started adding pressure monitoring in all of those stations. So using that smart city, smart gateway technology that we've already invested in for our AMI system, being able to use that to monitor pressure, see when there's issues out in our system. It's reducing truck rolls. We're not sending our staff into confined spaces as often. These are just things that are just going to continue to evolve and just kind of return on that initial AMI investment.
Excellent. Ron, I know water loss was a big thing. You're talking about the mileage of pipe that you're replacing and whatnot. Leak detection was a big thing. Have you gone down the road yet of district metering and things like that accordingly yet?
Yeah, not really. We're a part of the MWRA, so we just get our water supplied to us. It's going to be interesting now that we're like closing in on our first like fiscal year, where we're going to be fully, launched. The next year is going to probably be our year of understanding of where we're going with our water.
Mm.
Usually our water bills are about a $30 million enterprise account right now between water and sewer. So if we can put some money back into that enterprise account to change some of these water lines, that's our goal. We want to account for more water. We want to fix more leaks. We've already fixed over 100 leaks with our leak detection system, and it's tracking it. So it's good data. It's good data so that I can go to the engineers and say, when they say what streets need to be replaced, we're going to go down those roads. But as far as, whether what we're paying and what we're billing, we're trying to get as close as possible. Accurate meters, metering everything, metering, city meters, irrigation, all that stuff, just accounting for everything for us will be key, just to account for things. Getting our 27% unaccounted for water down to 10 or even lower as the DEP starts to get more strict. We have a big road in front of us, and we're just trying to chip away right now and find the main big problems and get an understanding of what the problems are, where we're losing water. We kind of
Excellent.
know where we're losing water with the age, but fixing the right pipes, in order is key for us.
Okay. Jason, and I'm going to be, because there's a couple change of questions, but Jason, I know you're extensively looking at district metering right now. You're similar to the MWRA, where you are purchasing all your water from New York City's aqueducts, and the water loss that you guys are dealing with is something, as the meter system is there, the district meter, you've been extensively diving into that and how to handle that. Eric, I know you've just, we've got about 250 pressure meters to start that process. So that's that part. So I just want everybody's dealing with it and on it. And that is something, whether you're pumping your own water or you're buying it, it's critical to deal with that, to, have a handle on your system. I want to switch to, for the people that are on listening in, let's talk about some of the problems: installation, ordering process, things to avoid if you could go back in time. So we're going to put you guys in a little time machine, go back in time, and some of it might be small, some of it might be big. So Eric, I'll start with you, since I know you needed to run out of your office because you guys are in the middle of a move out to get into your car to be in a quiet space. So I'll start with you.
No, we had a unique situation where when we started buying meters, it was right at the start of the tariffs. So in order to avoid getting hit hard, we front loaded our purchase, and I literally bought 100% of our meters for the job right away. And that was pretty wild, because then I had a major inventory project on hand. So the big thing I'm going to say is, depending on how you can space things out or the space availability that you have, managing inventory on a project of this size is key. And the other thing that I'm going to say that has been pretty critical, at least from my perspective, and I've been involved in literally every single phase of the project, from inception all the way through implementation. I think if you have an individual in your organization that kind of has a pulse on every single aspect of this, it depends on the size of your group, but we're a very lean organization. So I took it personally and said, you know what, I'm going to live every piece of this myself and make sure that every piece, is in place where it needs to be. And the inventory side has absolutely been a bear. However, getting a handle on it early has made things easy, because we can dispatch meters very easily and in a controlled fashion to our installers. And we're able to stay ahead of the program as things roll out. And as we convert to our commercial program, I know exactly where the meters are. I know exactly, which installer is going to be working on what account. And I can make sure that I don't create any delays in the process, and I can control how quickly and easily and how nimble our installers are. And that's an important part of the program to me, because the last thing I want to do is find out that there's a delay because, I've allowed somebody else in my organization or somebody else to control the inventory. By me personally controlling each and every one of those pieces, and making sure that I have staff that I've delegated to do those little bits and pieces as the program progresses. It's just cleaning up communication. It's cleaning up, potential liabilities and making sure that I'm on top of that so that I don't have any claims coming back for the city creating delays, not having inventory, and some of those things. So that's been a kind of an important part of my program. And just the fact that I literally had to buy all my inventory up front is a little bit unique, but it's also given me the unique ability to manage this very clean and consistently right from the get-go.
The inventory is critical for the meter changeout modules in your billing system. The what's existing, and then the clean data that you give to your installation company, and then the clean data or the checking of that data that the installation company gives back. We do tremendous amount of billing cleanup. That's where we call it the Bermuda Triangle of data loss in dealing with that. Susan, if you could touch on your installation or any lessons learned that you'd like to share with the group?
Sure. So my installation is a little bit different from most of the other panelists. Because we had just upgraded all the meters in the city in 2005, 2006, we opted to only do endpoint replacements to upgrade our AMR endpoints to the AMI cellular endpoints. So we did have an installation contractor do most of the installations for us. And Danbury is an old hat city, so there's a lot of we call ourselves the meter reading black hole because we've gone through a couple different systems and nothing seems to work depending on where you are in the city. So one of the things that we require is that our endpoint transmitters have to be on the outside of the building. The buildings in Danbury are, especially downtown, are from like the 1880s, 1860s or earlier. And the construction materials from then, the cellular signal and even the radio signal won't transmit through the actual building. So that was one of the things that we require. We require the endpoint to now be on the outside. And it seems to be working. We don't have a lot of issues with not being able to collect a signal or a read from meters. And then the only issues that I have really had is we have two different manufacturers of meters, and we didn't learn until a couple of months into the project that one of the manufacturers, those meters have to be after a certain date to be able to communicate and transmit all of the data, the meter data, with the system that we selected. So we're going back and trying to get in and change some of those meters now. Thankfully, it's only about 1,000 of the 12,000 that I have, so it's not that big of an issue. But if we have people that refuse to let us in to change out those meters that aren't compatible, that could become an issue down the road.
Great, thank you. Ron, hindsight, lessons learned?
Yeah, installation for us went pretty smooth. We had a good local installation company. I think that if I could give any good feedback of the installation process, having an installation company that has good software that you can incorporate into some type of spreadsheet to get the data into your billing system and into your meter reading system is key. I don't know if I can say the vendor, but they use this special software. And I was able to get a spreadsheet because I had installers changing 80 to 100 meters a day. And it was overwhelming for me to implement all these into the billing system and into the reading system on a daily basis. It was time consuming. So getting workarounds in place through spreadsheets that you could just import the data into the billing system, into the meter system easily and not do it manually, it leaves out a lot of manual error and it saves a lot of time doing stuff manually. That's the one thing that I would say that was key with our installation. I needed to make workarounds, being a one-man operation, 15,000 meters. I needed to come up with solutions that I could expedite processes to get bills out, and get all these change outs into our system in a timely manner.
So one of the hindsight things, Ron, for you would have been, since we just met a little while ago, we should have met when the project started because that's what we do. So a little plug, shameless plug, but that's the issues we deal with. Steve, how about you?
Yeah, I think we're pretty fortunate to be able to say there's not a lot of things we would change from 10 years ago. I've heard a lot of stories of municipalities or systems that are trying to do their own change outs. I would definitely recommend using an installer. Few reasons for that. It's amazing how much time staff can be tied up trying to schedule those appointments. We have to get inside every house as well. Um, I wish we were a system that had meter pits and we just had to go to the front yard to swap those out, but we're not. The amount of time it takes to schedule those appointments and do those change outs, just consider that. And inform your public as best as you can of the project going on, especially if you're using installers. Our company trucks aren't going to be pulling up in front of the house. A lot of times it's just a vehicle and a person getting out with their tools and a meter to go in and do that. We informed the local police departments in every municipality of what was going on. And it just cut down on the number of concerned calls that happened. So I think those are probably the two standouts for me.
Installation company and the vetting of the installation company and the software coming out of the installation company is 99% of our problems as we program manage a project. If there's a gap in that, it starts heavy right away. The smoother that process is, the better it is. So to add a level of that. And Jason, 85% then lessons learned.
Yeah, I think the other panels cover a lot of it, but I would emphasize one, just know your capabilities, first of all, first and foremost. I would also recommend having an installer handle the installation rather than doing it in-house. I understand, I mean, it might save a couple bucks, but up front, but on the back end, it could be a lot more difficult to get the project complete and to manage your resources. I would agree. Having great software helps. Communication is going to be key throughout the entire project, not only with your customers, but with the other stakeholders that are involved in the project, your elected officials, those who are, funding the project, if you will. So if you have good data on how the installation's going, you're able to regularly report on your progress, and foresee any problems that could be coming, and be prepared. So, you have great communication, right? Like with our project, we did a ton of social media in advance. We sent notices out. We did some press where we could put information on our website. Try and make people aware of what's coming because it's going to ultimately you're going to have to get into their property in order to change out the equipment. And if you do that successfully, it actually goes pretty smooth. We were able to get, I would say, to 70% pretty quickly. I mean, I would say by a year in, we were rolling along 2,000 plus at some points, 2,000 plus completions a month. But then you get toward the end, and you kind of have those stragglers that are, let's just say, for whatever reason, don't want to replace their meter, right? Like, maybe they've been getting away with free water for some time. Maybe they have something, in their house they don't want, they don't want the city to see. There could be a number of reasons. And we've had a lot of, a certain small percentage that claim, oh, I don't want the radiation, even though they're calling you to complain on their cell phone. So there's going to be all kinds of excuses as to why a certain group will refuse to let you access into their property to change out the meter. Be prepared for that. It's going to happen. We're at 85%, but we've got this last 15%. I would say it's actually less because there's some that we've had some large commercial that we just have to get to still. But say it's 10%. Be prepared with the strategy to address that because that is what can slow the total substantial completion from coming to a conclusion. So one of the things that we're doing is we've had we actually had legislation that was already put in place that allowed us to establish a fine for noncompliance. And we actually have made that a little stronger so that the penalty really, it becomes it's not really cost effective anymore to not have a new meter and a new radio in your house. So communication and preparedness are the two things that I think are the most important.
Excellent. And I would emphasize that create your escalation plan up front. Get the buy-in when you need to of, if they get the second letter, it's going to have stronger language in it. Make sure that is worked through your communication department, mayor's office, legal, all of that, and getting proactive on that. And Jason, I'll call you out on that because you were addressing the scheduling issue before anybody else was on the project of really like seeing that coming down the pipe. With all of this being said, we are really punctual on being careful to not address the 11 o'clock line so people can go on with their world. I am putting in the chat you can register there for the Rayburn newsletter, which gives you very non-salesy information on projects, case studies. For the people that are looking at a AMI system, when you register, you will get a checklist, a pretty significant detailed list that will help you make some decisions as you go forward. Again, I put my email in the chat because if you do want introductions to anybody that are on the panel specifically, I will do that. With that, is there any quick closing comments from anybody before we re-wrap? All right, we covered everything. Again, I want to thank the panelists for the extra effort, back and forth emails, annoying questions prior, tests before this. So again, greatly appreciated. I hope for everybody participating, you got some information that will help you move forward with your own projects. And if you have any questions, reach out to us and I'll introduce you to any of the panelists. Thank you very much. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Have a good one.